Greetings! I was just enjoying a beautiful afternoon working at my computer, but I think I might take a bit of a break to transform a broken 75-inch flat panel Sony TV into a realistic artificial window light. And yes, as you might have guessed, it's not actually a beautiful afternoon here at all. It's nighttime. Real big TV right there. This is a Sony 75-inch TV, and I'm only finding one screw holding the back plate on, so we might have to pry some things off. Here we go. All right, now that I've gotten to this stage, I just want to mention a lot of these TVs, even after they've been unplugged for a long time, can still hold a charge in some of these capacitors. So if you're not an electrician, do this at your own risk. So once we get the back plate off, here's what we're left with. Over here is the power board. This controls the LED lights, and anything that requires power flows through here. Over here is the motherboard. Underneath this black device is the processor. You've got two stereo speakers down here at the bottom. Those will probably be the first components that I remove, because obviously you don't need speakers if you're just turning this into a light. Underneath this flap here is the timing controller board. We can't really see that right now because it's covered. And that controls the pixels. And then this little guy right here, it's actually taped down. This little guy right here is the Wi-Fi board. This controls Wi-Fi signals into and out of the TV. All right, let's start taking this thing apart. So first I'm going to remove these speakers, and there are holes here for screws to go in, but there are no screws in them, which also makes me think either this was put together very cheaply or someone else already tried to take this TV apart and just didn't bother to put the screws back in. Now all of these components are connected with these plastic connectors. Well, most of them are plastic, and there's a release handle somewhere on them, so instead of just yanking them out, find that release lever, and after you do that, it should slide off there pretty easily. And this one, again, not held down by much of anything. Now that the speakers are removed, I'm going to remove some of these other components that we don't need, like the Wi-Fi board. I think with this one, this little silver part slides down like that. You can pull that out. And this can be recycled. Another component we're not going to need is the timing control board, so I'm going to see about getting that out from under here. These are on the sides, I think, so this is going to be tricky. Pull those to the side. And then wiggle it out. Okay. And a lot of these wires are just taped. This one up here goes out to the power board, so I think we're going to leave that one in for now. Audio wires, we can remove those. Now this is the control switch right here. This is what turns the TV on and off. It's literally the only button on the TV. But I think we're going to keep that for now. Just slide it back in here. The idea here is to remove all the components we don't need so that it's a little bit lighter and easier to move around, because this is a 75-inch TV. It's going to be heavy to move, and ultimately I might just get rid of it and find a smaller TV to do this conversion to. We can recycle this. I don't think we're going to need this again. And here's the timing control board right here. This is what controls the pixels. So as you can see, it's still attached to the LCD screen on the other side. This can be removed because we're going to remove that entire LCD screen eventually. So now all we're left with is the power board over here, which I'm going to be careful not to touch. We're going to keep the motherboard over here by virtue of the fact that the power control button is wired through that. So at this point I'm going to try and flip the whole TV over, and we're going to take off the LCD layer and look at some of the diffusion layers and ultimately get all the way down to the LED strips. And that's what produces the light that you see when you watch the TV. I really think my first attempt at this should have been on a smaller TV. Now it's connected all the way around with several plastic connecting pieces that just sort of pop right out if you're lucky. All right, now we're just going to try to pry up the edge of this. Okay. So now we can set this aside, hopefully. Look at that, it came out as one big piece. This is the LCD board. This is where all the pixels live, and this is where the image is created. And the LCD layer is very fragile. Removing it like this will very easily crack or shatter it. This one was already broken, so I've got nothing to lose. Also, the edges are very sharp, so I would recommend gloves. If you take a look underneath this, you see we've got some other things to talk about. It looks like we have another set of plastic brackets that are holding these pieces in, so I'm going to try to remove those. There's one. There's two. All right, now I'm going to plug it in and turn it on, and you'll be able to see how bright it is, hopefully. Power button is still connected, so we're going to hit that. Wow, okay, cool. So that's plenty bright. So this would easily create the feel of daylight in a room with a window this size. Before I start putting everything back together, let's have a quick look at some of the layers here. All right, so now that we have all the edges off, we can actually peel up, and with most TVs, there's 2 or 3 layers here of diffusion. So this top layer is actually a Fresnel layer. It might be mixed with a diffusion, I'm not sure. It could just be Fresnel. So I'll easily remove the Fresnel layer. And then here we have the diffusion layer. This basically takes the light coming from the LEDs beneath it and diffuses it across the entire surface so there aren't any hot spots or anything like that while you're watching the TV. All right, if I could do this carefully, although I don't think these layers are quite as delicate. Now you can see we basically have a tray full of recessed LED lights that are all about, I don't know, 3 inches apart from one another. So now if we turn this on, it'll be really bright. This actually looks really cool just like this. You can see all the lights light up. And what's interesting though, you can't really tell, but the lights don't exactly throw light upward. They throw it out this way. So now I'm gonna put the diffusion layer back on, and we're just gonna start to rebuild the parts of the TV that we're gonna need. If you had a stable base to add to this, this would make a really good tracing table. That's an idea to think about. So this is with just the diffusion layer laid onto it. And I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's throwing light really in every direction, as a diffused light source naturally would. And what this Fresnel layer does is it takes the light and it pushes it out toward the viewer instead of in every direction. So it kind of works as a little bit of a lens type of layer. So I think I'm gonna keep that too. And if you're using this to make a light source that's meant to replicate the look of a window, this layer really helps because it kind of gives you that 3D feel, like you're looking out through a window to an overcast day or something like that. I would recommend keeping the Fresnel layer on there. It just kind of sells the effect in a neat way. All right, successful test. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put the borders back on and start to close this thing up, and then we'll figure out what to do with the back side. Let's flip it over one more time. I'll slide the power button back into where it was originally. I would really love to not even put the back panel back on, but I really do need something to protect this and to protect this from getting hung up on something. All right, not bad. Let's set it up in the window and see if it looks like daylight. Oh, jeez. Why couldn't I have found it? A nice little 36-inch TV to do this with. Wrap this cord around here so no one can see it. And I've actually plugged it into a control switch. We're going to turn it on. Aha. And there you have it, a realistic artificial window light. Not only a window light, you could put this up on a wall or anywhere that you would want to have a window. Also, if you're a filmmaker, this makes a great poor man's set light. There are certainly numerous applications that can give you a little bit of daylight where you might not otherwise have any. I also want to give a shout out to DIY Perks, who inspired this idea, and also my lovely lady Bethany, who said, you should take this old TV and turn it into a window light. But if you are going to build one of these for yourselves, please keep in mind there are electrical components that may give you a nasty shock if you're not careful. Do this at your own risk. Well, that'll do it for this episode. If you enjoyed watching, please click the subscribe button down below, as well as the thumbs up, and consider leaving a comment. I love reading those as well. I gotta get back to work on the next episode. So until I see you again, have a lovely day. Or night.